You have to leave. Why? Hello everybody, come join me tonight. We'll help each other grow. I haven't done live for a couple weeks. I haven't joined anybody else in their live for a couple weeks, but that will change. I've been very busy. When I'm done my chips, you're going to read Let's Make Today Count. Or what's it called? Make Today Count. Until someone comes to join me. open it. Nobody yet. It's only been on for 3 minutes. Whatever. Alright. Love you. Have a good sleep. Mom, would you like to join for bed? Nobody's even on with us. I know. Can I join? Chop some cobwebs first. Where did I leave off? We're going to read chapter 2. Priorities. When I first graduated from college and began my career, I was not working according to my own agenda. Back in the 1960s, when I studied for the ministry, the majority of my course work had prepared me to do counseling and administration. Hi, crazy kid. Hi, Queen Bee. How are you? Thanks for stopping by. We're good, crazy kid boy. How are you? This must be a popular time for streams then. Hey, Queen Bee. Thanks for stopping by. Gracias por parar. Por vernos, por estar juntos con nosotros. Don't do that. I thought you meant to be here with me. I didn't think you meant that.
No, leave
Hey, no.
the cell phone when it's bedtime.
Okay, stop. Don't.
Thank you.
So when I began working in 1969, guess what I spent most of my time doing? That's right, counseling and administration. Nothing could have been further from my natural gifts or my natural inclinations. Despite much hard work, I was neither fulfilled nor effective. Because I wanted to improve myself and pick up skills I didn't learn in college. In 1971, I began working on a business degree. While reading for one of the courses, I came across a paragraph written about Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto. It contained information about prioritizing called the Pareto principle. It said that by focusing your attention on the top 20% of all your priorities, you would get an 80% return on your profit. Your effort. That was my eureka moment. That's when I made this decision. I will prioritize my life and give focus and energy to those things that give the highest return. I never look at myself or my work in the same way. I realized that I needed to focus 80% of my time, energy, and resources on the areas of strength, not on counseling and administration. Those activities were not bad things. They were just bad things for me. From the moment I made that decision, I have been a practitioner of the Pareto principle, and I have taught it to others for 33 years. If you want to read a more in-depth treatment of the Pareto principle, read my book, Developing the Leader Within You. Most of the time, this has kept me focused and on track, although when I first began applying the principle, the results sometimes were not what I had intended. Margaret and I still laugh at the time she asked me to start helping her mow the lawn. Margaret, I said, having just learned Pareto, I don't want to waste time on something like that. I'm trying to stay focused. We can pay somebody to do that. Margaret looked at me and replied, Pay with what? We worked it out, but it was a defining moment for us. From the time on, I have tried to focus on those things that are important and not get sidetracked. Making the decision to determine and act on important priorities daily. If you want to change the way you look at yourself and what you do by making a decision concerning your priorities, then do the following. Take back today. And I will be back in a moment. Voy a regresar en un momento. Love you. Take back today. Have you ever noticed that the people who have nothing to do usually want to spend their time with you? Poet Carl Sadberg said, Time is the most valuable coin in your life. You and you alone will determine how that coin will be spent. Be careful that you do not let other people spend it for you. Your greatest possession is the 24 hours you have directly ahead of you. How will you spend it? Will you give in to pressure or focus on priorities? Will you allow pointless emails, unimportant tasks, telemarketers, interruptions, and other distractions to consume your day? Or will you take complete responsibility for how you spend your time? Take control of the things you can, and make today yours. If you don't decide how your day will be spent, someone else will. Ask yourself 3 questions. No daily dozen issue has added more to my success than the principle of priorities. When I discovered that I needed to change my approach to my day and my career, I started by asking myself 3 critical questions. Number 1, what is required of me? Any realistic assessment of priorities in any area of life must start with a realistic assessment of what a person must do. For you to be a good spouse or parent, what is required of you? To satisfy your employer, what must you do? If you lead others, then the question should be, what must you personally do that cannot be delegated to anyone else? When ordering priorities, always start with the requirement question and give it careful thought before moving on to the next question. What gives you the greatest return? As you progress in your career, you begin to discover that some activities yield a much higher return for the effort that others do. Anyone who hasn't discovered that probably isn't progressing in his career. The next place to focus your attention is on those high return activities. What gives me the greatest reward? If you do only what you must and what is effective, you will be highly productive. But you may not be content. I think it's also important to consider what gives you personal satisfaction. However, I find that some people want to start with the reward question and go no further than that. No one can be successful who doesn't possess the discipline to take care of the first two areas before adding the third. Again, we're reading Make Today Count. Philosopher William James said, "The art of being wise is the art of knowing what to overlook." If you bring your priorities into focus by answering those three questions, you will have a much better idea of what you should overlook. Stay in your strength zone. People don't pay for average. People don't go looking for a mediocre restaurant and middling movie when they go out at night. Employers don't award the contract to the salesperson known as Mr. Average. Nobody says, let's give the contract to the company that will do a merely adequate job. It was a great day in my church when I stopped counseling people and stopped getting bogged down with administration details. But finding my strength zone took some time and exploration. If you don't already have a good handle on your strengths, then you may want to explore some of these suggestions. They're based on what I did to find mine. Trial and error. Nothing teaches you more than your successes and failures. Anytime something seems to be a trial and you make a lot of mistakes, it's probably time to move on. But you've got to take the risk of failing to find your successes. The counsel of others. Asking others to evaluate your effectiveness is not always fun, but it is always helpful. Be sure to choose people who don't have an agenda other than to help you, which means choose people who are going to tell you the truth and not just tell you what you want to hear. Personality tests. Evaluations such as DISC, Florence Litter's personality profile, and Myers-Briggs can be very helpful. They will help to clarify some of your natural inclinations and help to reveal some strengths and weaknesses you aren't aware of. Personal experience. You really get a feel for how well you do something by doing it repeatedly. Just remember this: experience is always the best teacher. Evaluated experiences. What? Sorry, apparently I can't read well. Experience isn't always the best teacher. Evaluated experience is. So, just because you've done something for many years doesn't mean that you're good at it. So just because I do something for many years doesn't mean I'm good at it. So we need to have somebody truthfully tell us, which isn't always the easiest to hear, but we have to try to be ready for it. British Prime Minister William Gladstone said, "He is a wise man who wastes no energy on pursuits for which is not fitted, and he is a wiser still who from among the things he can do well chooses and resolutely follows the best. The more you stay in your zone, the greater your productivity and the greater your ability to reach your potential." One of the things I noticed very quickly after making my priorities decision was that priorities shift very easily. For that reason, they must be continually evaluated and guarded. My reminder to manage the discipline of priorities is this. Every day, I will live my life according to my priorities. What does that mean? 5 things. Evaluate priorities. Hello, Arms Learning Network. How are you? Thanks for joining me today. Are you still there? Evaluate priorities daily. A man went to the Super Bowl and climbed to the top row in the end zone section of the stadium to reach his seat. After the game started, he spotted an empty seat on the 50-yard line. After working his way down to it, he asked the man in the next seat, "Excuse me, but is anyone sitting here?" "No," replied the man. "Actually, the seat belongs to me. I was supposed to come with my wife, but she died. This is the first Super Bowl we haven't been to together since we got married in 1967. "That's very sad, but still, couldn't you find anyone else to take the seat? A relative or close friend?" "No," replied the man. "They're all at the funeral." Sad. Priorities don't stay put. You have to revisit them every day. Why? Because conditions continually change. So do methods of getting things done. Your values, once defined, are going to be steady. You will be able to rely on them, but how you carry them out needs to be flexible. Plan your time carefully. According to a survey taken by Daytimers, Inc., only 1/3 of American workers plan their daily schedules, and only 9% follow through and complete what they planned. If you want to be effective, you must be able to make the transition to planning. I plan my calendar 40 days at a time, but when I get ready to approach a day, I have the whole thing laid out, hour by hour. It's a rare day that I get up in the morning wondering, what will I be doing that day, even when on vacation? Number 3, follow your plan. I don't mean to insult your intelligence by suggesting that you follow your plan, but it needs to be said. According to time management experts Alec McKenzie, surveys show that most executives don't get to their most important tasks until mid-afternoon. Why? Most finished off low-priority tasks so that they could have a sense of accomplishment. German novelist Johann Wolfgang von Goethe said, "Things that matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least." If you prioritize your life and plan your day, but don't follow through, your results will be the same as those of someone who didn't prioritize at all. Delegate whenever possible. I've observed that most people fall into one of 2 categories when it comes to delegation. They're either clingers or dumpers. Clingers refuse to let go of anything they think is important, whether they are the best person to do it or not. Their goal is perfection. Dumpers are quick to get rid of tasks, yet give little thought to how successful their delegation efforts will be. Their goal is to get things off their desk. How do you find the right standard for delegation? When is it right to hand something off? And when is it right to hold on to it? Here's the guideline I use. If someone else can do a task I'm doing 80% as well as I do, then I hand it off. That's pretty darn good. And if I do a good job of motivating, encouraging, and rewarding them, then they will only get better. I've handed off responsibilities using that standard, and after a while, the person who's taken on the job has gone on to do it much better than I could. When that happens, it's very rewarding. Today I am surrounded by people on my team who do things much better than I can. They make up the difference in my weak areas, and they exceed my expectations in others. They lift me to the level higher than I could ever attain myself, and they allow me to live out my priorities. The advice of management expert Peter Drucker is good. No executive has ever suffered because his subordinates were strong and effective. That is very true. Number 5, invest in the right people daily. There's one more area I want to address in the area of priorities, and that's the need to prioritize how we spend time with people. My friend Waylon Moore has observed that often we spend priority time with problem people when we should be spending it with potential people. I think that's true. How do you decide whom to spend time with? Certainly, you want to treat everyone with respect and try to have a good, positive relationship with everyone, but you should not spend time with everyone equally. Here's what I use to evaluate where to invest my time. Value the team, natural ability, responsibility, timing, potential, and mentoring fit. The time you spend with others can be a great investment. Choose whom you will invest in, and then add value to them on a consistent basis. You will never regret it. Your priorities decision today. Where do you stand when it comes to priorities today? Ask yourself these 3 questions. Have I already made the decision to determine and act on important priorities daily? If so, when did I make that decision? What exactly did I decide? Your priorities discipline every day. Based on the decision you made concerning priorities, what is the one discipline you must practice today and every day in order to be successful? Well, I'm only going to be on for a little bit more, as somebody told me that there's many others that are live streaming at the same time. So I might go join them on their live streams for a little bit. And tomorrow or Monday I will continue reading chapter 3, health, and if anybody wants to come and discuss making today count or something else, then feel free. And I will see you all later. Have a good night.